Don't screw this up, mijo, was his father's last blessing. This can work into something really big for you up there. And that's when he said it. Here in Sinaloa, you will most likely just fill an early grave. The old man paused, scratching at his chin with a ragged fingernail as he considered his son for what might be the last time. Little Abe was his only hope, and it brought a tear to think this boy was all that stood between him and an uncertain old age. True, he didn't need much. A couple of milpas for a little corn and beans, maybe a few chickens. No more than that. The elder Abraham, now forced to look back over a lifetime in so dangerous a business, was amazed at how little he had to show for it. Little Abe was indeed his final play. When old Abraham Garza handed his son the battered suitcase, he chose each word as though his life depended on it. Should you do anything to anger those people up there, Abraham, no matter if it is your fault or their fault or even nobody's fault, it will be your old papa's head on the chopping block. There was a tremor in the old man's voice, and he pulled a long face for the boy. I am only hanging on by my toenails with these people as it is, Abraham. He frowned, shaking his head, and then, lowering his voice to a deadly whisper, leaned closer to the boy. One word from El Escuche Espinosa, and you will have no more papa, no one to look out for you and love you as I have. He said this with such finality as to leave no doubt whatsoever in his son's mind. Tressa watched as little Abe thought his way through the implications of her latest proposal, and thought she saw a flicker of hesitation, fleeting and dark as a bat out of hell, but a warning nonetheless. It is only right he should be cautious, she reasoned. This is not, after all, a small undertaking. She knew to consider it less might indicate a lack of intelligence on the boy's part. Without little Abe, her task would be daunting, if not impossible. Evil and conniving people were all around her, watching her every move. No, clearly, this simple young man from Sinaloa was a godsend. So, you think we got to kill 'em both? Maybe killing only Carlos could be enough. No one liked Carlos Espinosa anyway. She sighed. No, I don't think so, hombrecito. Then, smiling, she shook her head in such a way he might realize how foolish the question was. It was obvious to little Abe. Planning the Espinosa's death bothered Tressa no more than wringing the neck of a yard chicken for the dinner table. Abraham sighed. The woman was right, of course. Hector, left alive, wouldn't rest until he brought them both to ground, and it probably wouldn't take him very long either. If there was one thing Tressa Tarango learned from her late husband, it was that a hurtful act must never go unpunished. If you let something like this pass, you will always be at that person's mercy. This was how Luca Tarango thought. He was a man who lived by few rules, but this, and one other, he held inviolate. On the other hand, he would remind her, should you be shown a kindness, there is an obligation to repay that favor as well, else you will forever be in that person's debt. Both good and evil deserve reward and repayment in the spirit they were offered. Luca Tarango was a hard man, and knew what it took to survive among rough people. Over the years, she had come to realize there was an undeniable wisdom in his thinking. Tressa hadn't forgotten these things. She was only biding her time, waiting for the right moment. And now the time of reckoning had come. Debts accrue interest, especially those owed to a man such as Luca Tarango. Little Abe turned back to his sink of dirty dishes, and a little bead of cold sweat ran down his back as he thought of his old father in Sinaloa. The old man was probably right. It wouldn't matter whose fault it was. Something bad would happen eventually. He knew now he was in